How a millionaire saved a starving single mother, unaware that she was a princess, and eventually fell in love with her. In the middle of a busy city street, Michael walked with quiet confidence. He was a kind man, known not just for his wealth but for his warm heart. Even on a day when many hurried past each other, Michael always took a moment to notice those in need. That afternoon, as he passed by a crowded market, his eyes caught a gentle figure sitting on the cold pavement. There, in a simple dress that had seen better days, sat a woman cradling a small baby in her arms. Her tired eyes and trembling hands spoke of hardship, and yet there was a quiet strength in her gaze that made Michael pause. He approached her slowly, careful not to startle her. "Hello," he said softly, offering a warm smile. "Are you all right? Can I help you with something?" His words were gentle, filled with genuine care. The woman looked up, surprised by the kindness in his voice. Though she struggled to hide her pain, there was a spark of hope in her eyes. I'm just hungry," she replied quietly, her voice carrying a mix of shame and determination. Michael's heart ached at her simple admission. Without a moment's hesitation, he reached into his bag and pulled out some food he had picked up earlier that day. "Here, take this," he said. "I have some food with me. You must share it with your little one." As she accepted the food with trembling hands, Michael noticed something unusual. A small, delicate pendant that peeked out from beneath her faded blouse. It shone softly, hinting at a past that was very different from her current struggle. The woman, still cautious, met his gaze. For a brief second, a memory seemed to flicker in her eyes, a glimpse of a life filled with light and promise. They sat together on a quiet step away from the crowd. Michael listened as she spoke in low, hesitant tones about her journey, and although her words were few, there was a mysterious quality in the way she mentioned a lost name, a hint of a heritage she barely spoke of. In that moment, Michael felt a deep connection. He sensed that behind her weary smile and humble appearance lay secrets waiting to be discovered. The day moved slowly as they talked, and with every kind word Michael offered, the fragile bond between them grew. Their meeting was brief, but it was a spark, one that promised the beginning of a story that was far more than chance. And though neither of them knew it yet, that day marked the start of a journey that would change both of their lives forever. Eliza's secret began to unfold slowly, like the gentle opening of a flower. In the quiet moments they shared, Michael noticed that there was more to her than the tired look on her face and the worn-out clothes she wore. One afternoon, as they sat on a bench in a small, hidden park away from the city's noise, a soft breeze made her pendant dance in the light. That delicate piece of jewelry, with its familiar crest, whispered a story of a past filled with elegance and grace. As she spoke, Michael could see a mixture of sadness and relief in her eyes. Eliza's voice trembled at times as she recounted the memories of a life filled with both love and loss. The soft echo of royal music, the gentle voice of a parent, and the weight of a crown. All these memories lingered within her. Even though she had chosen a simpler path, those memories were a part of her, shaping the woman she had become. Michael listened carefully, his heart growing fonder with every word. He realized that the gentle, kind woman before him had once known the light of a grand world, a world that was both beautiful and painful. In that moment, the bond between them deepened, as Michael understood the strength it took for her to leave behind a life of luxury for one of hardship. He reached out and gently held her hand, promising silently that he would stand by her side as she continued to heal and reveal more of her true self. In the soft afternoon light, with some of her secrets shared and her past laid bare, Eliza felt a small spark of hope. She began to see that her true worth was not defined by a title or a crown, but by the kindness and strength that now shone in her eyes. And as Michael's gentle smile met hers, a new chapter of trust and understanding quietly began to blossom between them. Before her life took a difficult turn, Eliza had been a bright and hopeful student at the university. She was eager to learn and dreamed of using her knowledge to help others and make the world a better place. Her eyes shone with promise as she attended lectures and worked hard on her studies. Yet behind her warm smile and kind heart, a dark secret was waiting to cast a long shadow over her dreams. One ordinary day, after a class filled with ideas and lively discussion, Eliza was asked to visit the office of one of her professors. He was older and held a position of great authority, a man whom many trusted. In that quiet, secluded room, the situation turned from routine to something no one should ever experience. Instead of offering guidance and support, the professor took advantage of his power. Despite Eliza's efforts to resist and protect herself, he overpowered her and raped her. In that moment, her bright future was marred by a pain that ran deep. The incident left Eliza feeling shattered and alone. The hurt was not just physical, it seeped into her very soul. In the days that followed, instead of finding comfort and protection, she was met with harsh words and cruel judgment. Rumors began to swirl, and many whispered that the terrible event was not something that had been forced upon her, but a choice she had made. These hurtful accusations deepened the pain and isolation she felt, leaving scars that would take years to heal. Even now, as she sits with Michael and shares her story in soft, trembling tones, the memory of that day lingers. It is a part of her past that she wishes she could leave behind, a dark chapter that explains the sorrow in her eyes. Yet, in the midst of this deep hurt, there remains a small, unyielding spark of strength. Eliza clings to the hope that one day the truth will be seen and understood, and that she can finally find peace. Michael listens with a heavy heart. He cannot fully grasp the pain of that day, but he feels it all the same. As he gently holds her hand, he silently promises that he will stand by her side, offering the care and understanding that she has long been denied. In that quiet moment, amidst the weight of her past, their bond grows stronger, a promise that even in the darkest times, there is hope for healing and a brighter tomorrow. Eliza soon found that the help she desperately needed was nowhere to be found. When she spoke up about the terrible incident at the university, the people in power turned a blind eye. Instead of protecting her, both the school and the palace chose to hide the truth, fearing that any scandal would hurt their reputation. They did not listen to her plea for justice. In the royal palace, the rules were strict and unyielding. A princess was expected to be perfect, and any hint of scandal was met with harsh punishment. Even though Eliza had been a kind and gentle soul, the palace officials insisted that if a princess were involved in such a matter, she must be punished, often in the most severe way. The unbending traditions left her with no choice but to accept that staying was dangerous, not just for herself, but also for her unborn child. Her parents, who loved her deeply, were torn between duty and their natural desire to protect her. They wanted to help, but the palace rules were like iron chains that even their love could not break. Caught in a battle between what was right and what was expected, they found themselves powerless. Their hearts ached as they watched the system force their daughter into a corner with no escape. With no other option, and knowing that her life was in grave danger, Eliza made the hardest decision of her life. In the quiet hours of the night, she gathered a few precious belongings and slipped away from the only world she had ever known. Every step away from the palace was filled with sorrow and fear. The memory of her family and the home she was forced to leave behind was painful, but she held on to a small hope that someday the truth would be known. As she walked into the darkness, the sound of her own heartbeat mingled with her quiet tears. Eliza was now alone, a princess without a palace, forced into exile by rules that valued reputation over compassion. Yet deep inside her, a spark of courage remained, a belief that despite the injustice and the heartbreak, she could still forge a path toward a future where truth and kindness would light the way. Eliza's journey on the run was filled with uncertainty and hardship. After leaving behind the life of a princess, she found herself wandering through dark, deserted corridors and old, abandoned buildings. Each day was a struggle to survive, always looking over her shoulder for the threat of palace guards who never seemed to rest in their search for her. One chilly evening, As the wind howled and rain pounded the cracked streets, Eliza felt a sharp pain in her side. The pain grew stronger, and she realized that her time of labor had come unexpectedly. With no safe place in sight, she wandered into a forgotten part of the city, her footsteps echoing in empty halls of a crumbling building. In the quiet of that neglected shelter, a soft knock at the door startled her. An elderly woman, known by the locals for her gentle heart, stood there with a warm smile. Though she lived in modest circumstances, her kindness shone through as she invited Eliza in. The old woman quickly prepared a small, dry room with blankets and a bit of food. Her careful touch and comforting words provided a brief but much-needed respite from the harsh world outside. As the night grew deeper, the elderly woman stayed by Eliza's side. She listened softly as Eliza shared whispers of fear and memories of a life lost to cruelty and injustice. In that small room, filled only with the sound of the wind and the beat of a frightened heart, a miracle happened. After long hours of pain and struggle, the cries of a newborn baby filled the space, a sign of hope in the midst of despair. The tiny baby boy brought a glimmer of new life, and for a moment Eliza felt the warmth of possibility despite her sorrow. Yet outside the fragile safety of the room, the danger still loomed. The palace guards, relentless in their pursuit, continued to search for her. Every sound, a distant footstep, or the rustle of leaves, sent a jolt of fear through her body. Even in that constant state of alertness, the kind care of the elderly woman provided Eliza with strength. The shelter was a small haven in a cruel world, a place where, for a short while, she could care for her newborn and allow herself to hope that love and compassion might one day overcome the darkness that chased her. Over the weeks that followed, Michael's path crossed with Eliza's more and more. Every time he walked by the narrow streets where she sought shelter, he remembered the woman he had met on that busy day. Michael's kind heart could not forget the fragile hope in her eyes, and he made it his mission to be there whenever she needed help. One chilly morning, as the first light of dawn broke through the city, Michael noticed Eliza sitting quietly by a small, hidden doorway. Her newborn rested in her arms, and despite the exhaustion in her face, there was a soft determination that shone through. Without a word, Michael approached, carrying a bag with fresh food, a warm blanket, and a few supplies from a nearby clinic. He offered these gifts with a gentle smile, and in return Eliza's eyes, though tired, filled with a hint of gratitude. Over time, Michael began to visit regularly. He brought not only food and medicine, but also the comfort of a safe place where she could rest. In one of the modest rooms he had arranged for her, Michael would sit and listen to her quiet voice as she spoke in soft tones about her life. Their conversations were filled with gentle words, and every shared smile helped build a bridge between their hearts. There were moments when they found a peaceful corner in a small park away from the dangers of the city. There, under the shade of an old tree, Michael would speak about simple things, stories of his childhood, memories of happier days, and slowly, the heavy air around Eliza began to lift. In these quiet moments, a tender feeling began to grow. Though Eliza still carried the weight of her past and the secrets she held, the compassion and understanding in Michael's eyes offered her a glimpse of a future where she could feel safe. One afternoon, Michael took Eliza to a modest clinic where caring doctors checked on her and her baby. The kindness they encountered there was a stark contrast to the cold, harsh world she had known. As she rested and recovered, Michael stayed by her side, offering soft reassurances and listening patiently to every word. His unwavering care became a steady light in her difficult days, slowly nurturing a fragile hope. In the simple acts of kindness, the shared meals, the quiet conversations, and the moments of understanding, Michael's compassion began to work its gentle magic. A tender romance started to bloom, not with grand gestures, but through small, sincere moments. Even though Eliza's royal secret was still hidden in her heart, Michael's love and care made her feel valued and safe. In that slowly growing bond, they both found the promise of healing, a spark of hope that perhaps together they could create a new beginning out of the darkness that had once consumed her world. One cool evening, as they sat together in the quiet of a small room Michael had arranged for her, he noticed something new about Eliza. When she reached up to tuck a loose strand of hair behind her ear, Michael's eyes caught a glimpse of a tiny, ornate locket that hung from a delicate chain around her neck. Its design was intricate, featuring a crest that stirred a feeling deep within him, a feeling that this locket might be more than just a cherished keepsake. Curiosity mingled with gentle concern, and Michael asked softly, "May I ask about your locket?" Eliza hesitated for a moment, her eyes reflecting both sadness and a guarded hope. Then she whispered, "It belonged to my family, a part of a life I once knew." Her words were few but full of meaning, and Michael listened intently, sensing that there was a story hidden behind the simple pendant. In the days that followed, small hints began to surface. In quiet conversations with kindly strangers, and in the soft murmurs of the city, Michael heard whispers of a princess who had once graced the halls of a grand palace, a princess who had been forced to leave behind a world of beauty and privilege under the weight of scandal. Each new clue made Michael wonder if the gentle, resilient woman he had come to care for was, in fact, that very princess. Encouraged by Michael's constant kindness and unwavering support, Eliza slowly began to open up about her past. One evening, with the sound of soft rain outside, she shared the painful chapters of her life. She spoke of her early days in a palace filled with light and love, but also of the heavy expectations and strict rules that left her feeling trapped. She told him of a terrible day at the university, a day that had shattered her innocence and left deep scars when someone she trusted had hurt her. Her voice trembled as she recounted the hurt of being blamed for something that was not her fault, and how the very people who should have protected her chose instead to silence her. As she told her story, Michael felt a deep sorrow for all that she had suffered. Yet his heart filled with admiration for the strength she had shown in surviving such hardships. In that quiet moment, Michael made a promise to himself and to her. He would help her reclaim the truth of her past, restore her dignity, and fight for the justice she so rightly deserved. Gently taking her hand, Michael looked into her eyes and said, "I promise I will do everything I can to help you. Your past, your true self, deserves to be honored." In that touch, there was a silent vow, a promise of protection, of care, and of a new beginning where truth could mend the wounds of yesterday. That night, under the soft glow of a street lamp seen through the window, their bond grew even deeper. Together, they began to piece together the fragments of her hidden identity, ready to face a future where love and truth would guide them toward justice. Michael felt a deep need to help Eliza get the justice she deserved. With every kind gesture and gentle word he had offered her, his determination to make things right grew stronger. He began to use his connections and resources to dig deeper into the dark secrets that had haunted her for so long. Late into the night, Michael spent hours talking to people who had once been part of the university, and even to those who had worked in the palace. His sincere questions and careful listening helped him uncover hidden stories. Soon, a number of witnesses came forward. They recalled moments when they had seen or heard things that pointed to the truth of what had happened to Eliza. Old documents and forgotten records were found, and even a confession was made by someone who had known too well the shame and guilt of protecting a secret. With these new pieces of evidence in hand, Michael went to the authorities. It was not an easy task, as the systems that once ignored Eliza's pain were slow to change, but as more evidence piled up, the truth could no longer be denied. The investigation led to the arrest of the old lecturer, the man who had caused so much pain in her life. When the news of his arrest broke out, it sent ripples through both the community and the halls of power. Slowly, the cold walls of the justice system began to warm with attention to Eliza's case. People who had once believed the unfair whispers started to see the truth. Public opinion shifted as more and more voices spoke in her favor. The media, too, began to report on the story, showing the real side of the injustice that had been done. Eliza's name, once tainted by cruel rumors, was slowly being cleared by the light of truth. In every small victory, the witness who bravely told their story, the document that proved her innocence, and the confession that sealed the lecturer's fate, Michael and Eliza found a reason to believe that justice was finally within reach. Their fight was not just for her, but for everyone who had ever been hurt by a system that once seemed too powerful to challenge. And as the days passed, the hope that had been so fragile in the beginning began to shine brighter, promising a future where truth and love could triumph over darkness. As the truth of Eliza's story spread, a change began to stir in places she had long thought lost to her. News of the justice she had fought for reached even the highest halls of the palace, and soon her estranged parents stepped forward. Their eyes were filled with regret as they realized that silence had only deepened her pain. One quiet afternoon, in a modest room filled with soft light, her parents arrived. With trembling voices and tearful eyes, they apologized for not being there for her when she needed them most. They spoke of their own fear and the strict rules that had kept them from protecting her, and in that honest moment, the seeds of reconciliation were sown. Eliza listened to their apologies, her heart heavy with years of hurt, yet gently opening to the possibility of forgiveness. It was not easy to mend the broken bonds of the past, but with each sincere word, a small gap in the armor of her pain began to close. Michael stood by her side through every moment of that difficult meeting. His steady presence and kind words reminded her that she was not alone in her journey to heal. As her parents reached out, their voices soft and full of remorse, Eliza felt a cautious hope blossom, a hope that forgiveness might light the way to a new beginning. In the days that followed, the home that had once been filled with silence and sorrow slowly turned into a space for healing. Michael's gentle care continued to be a constant source of strength for her. Together, they tended to the needs of her little baby boy, whose innocent smile and curious eyes were a daily reminder of life's fragile beauty. Every shared moment, a quiet meal, a soft lullaby sung to the child, a long walk in the cool evening, wove a tapestry of love and resilience. The baby became a symbol of all that could be reborn from the pain of the past. As time passed, both Eliza and Michael learned to forgive not only others, but also themselves. They discovered that healing was a slow process, one that required both strength and vulnerability. In forgiving her parents and accepting their remorse, Eliza began to see that her identity was defined not by her scars, but by the courage she had shown in overcoming them. Michael, with his unwavering support, found in her a strength that inspired him to be even more compassionate and brave in his own ways. In this journey of mending broken bonds, every heartfelt conversation and every tear shed for old wounds paved the way for a future filled with hope. The once hidden pain of the past gradually gave way to the promise of new beginnings. Together, surrounded by the love of her rediscovered family and Michael's steadfast care, Eliza stepped into a life where truth, forgiveness, and the power of healing shone as brightly as the morning sun. The day finally arrived when all the pieces of a long, hard journey began to fit together. Justice had been served. The man who had caused so much pain was behind bars, and the truth had shone through at last. With her name cleared and her honor restored, Eliza was welcomed back into the royal family. The palace, once a place of strict rules and cold judgments, now buzzed with hope and excitement. Her parents, filled with regret for their past mistakes, stood by her side as they embraced the chance to start anew. In a beautiful garden on the palace grounds, friends, family, and kind-hearted people gathered to celebrate a day that was as much about love as it was about new beginnings. The garden was alive with the gentle rustle of leaves and the sweet scent of blooming flowers. Sunlight danced on the faces of those who had come to honor the love and resilience that had carried Eliza through her darkest days. At the heart of this celebration stood Michael, whose steady support and compassionate heart had helped guide Eliza back to herself. He waited at the end of a long, flower-lined path, his eyes full of admiration and tenderness. When Eliza appeared, radiant in a dress that blended the simplicity of her new life with the subtle elegance of her past, the crowd hushed in awe. Each step she took was a declaration of her strength, a gentle reminder that the hardship she had endured only made her more beautiful and wise. The ceremony was simple, yet deeply moving. Michael and Eliza exchanged heartfelt vows, promising to stand together through all the challenges life might bring. They spoke softly of love, forgiveness, and the power of truth. In those quiet moments, every word was a promise to protect one another and to cherish the light that had guided them through the darkness. Nearby, the little baby boy, a symbol of hope and renewal, lay peacefully in the arms of a trusted caregiver, a reminder of the new life they had all begun to build. As the sun dipped low in the sky, the celebration grew warmer and more joyful. Laughter and gentle music filled the air, mingling with the soft whispers of heartfelt congratulations and dreams for the future. The palace, once a place of harsh rules, now echoed with the sound of forgiveness and second chances. It was a day when the past, with all its pain and sorrow, was gently put to rest, making room for a future built on compassion, understanding, and unwavering love. After the wedding, a new chapter began in Michael and Eliza's life. Their hearts were full of hope, and together they set out to build a future that honored the lessons they had learned. Every morning, as soft sunlight filtered through the palace gardens, they walked side by side, dreaming of ways to help others find the strength to heal. They decided to open a small community center within the palace grounds, a safe haven where anyone in need could come for comfort and support. Michael, with his kind nature and generous spirit, used his skills to create small opportunities for work and learning. Eliza, drawing on her own experiences of pain and renewal, listened with empathy to those who had long suffered in silence. Their shared vision was simple: to let love, truth, and forgiveness light the way for everyone. In the community center, people from all walks of life gathered. Some came to share their worries, others came to learn new skills, or simply to feel a part of a caring community. Michael and Eliza welcomed each visitor with open arms, believing that every story had the power to inspire change. Over time, the center became a place where old wounds began to mend and new friendships were formed. Every corner of the palace seemed to glow with a gentle warmth as laughter and conversation replaced past sorrow. Michael and Eliza often paused during their walks to admire the blooming flowers and the smiles of those they had helped. They knew that the road ahead would not always be easy, but together they had created a spark, a promise that even in the aftermath of deep pain, life could be rebuilt with care, understanding, and unwavering hope. And so, with each passing day, their new journey unfolded, one filled with small victories, heartfelt connections, and the quiet strength that comes from turning personal hardships into a beacon of light for others. Over the months, the community center became a warm beacon of hope in the heart of the palace grounds. Each day, the center buzzed with life as people shared meals, laughter, and even tears. Children ran around the small garden, their joyful voices mixing with the soft hum of conversation from elders and newcomers alike. One day, a young man named Jacob arrived at the center. He carried the weight of his own struggles, a past filled with regret and lost hope. Michael and Eliza welcomed him, giving him a chance to be heard without judgment. With time, Jacob began to find his place among the group. He learned new skills at the workshops and even discovered a talent for art, expressing his feelings in paintings that spoke of sorrow, but also of healing. His transformation became a symbol of the center's power, a gentle reminder that every small act of care could spark a change in someone's life. As the center grew, so did the sense of community. People began to organize small gatherings where they would share their experiences, learn from each other, and offer support. These meetings became a regular part of life at the center. Michael and Eliza often led discussions, sharing their own journeys of loss and hope. They taught that healing was not a lonely path, but a shared one, built on the understanding that every heart deserved compassion. Even on days when memories of past pain tried to creep back into their thoughts, Michael and Eliza found strength in the smiles and progress of those around them. They watched as the community mended its wounds, one kind gesture at a time. Every conversation, Every shared meal and every moment of laughter reinforced the belief that love and understanding could light even the darkest corners of life. In this new chapter, Michael and Eliza embraced their legacy of service. They knew that by opening their hearts and creating a place of refuge, they were not only healing others, but also finding a deeper meaning in their own lives. Their journey had taught them that even after the harshest storms, life could bloom with the promise of a brighter, kinder future. In the end, Michael and Eliza's journey shows us that even when life seems filled with darkness, compassion and determination can bring light. Their story is one of pain, healing, and the power of love to overcome even the deepest wounds. Through their struggles and victories, we learn that every act of kindness, whether it's offering a helping hand or standing up for what is right, has the power to change lives. Today, their journey is not just a fairy tale of lost and found royalty or a simple romance between a millionaire and a starving single mother. It is a reminder that every person, no matter how broken they feel, carries an inner strength waiting to be discovered. Michael and Eliza chose to build a community that supports one another, proving that our past does not define us, but our courage to move forward does. Now, I invite you to take a moment and reflect on this story. Think about how a small act of kindness in your own life might make a big difference to someone else. If you believe in the power of love, truth, and hope, please share this video with others who might need a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is always a chance for a new beginning. Don't forget to leave a comment below with your thoughts or share a story of kindness that has touched your life. And if you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales that remind us all to stand together, support one another, and keep hope alive. Together, we can create a ripple effect of compassion and change that touches every corner of our world. Thank you for watching.